I gave you a piece.
Wow! Look at the PC. And so if I want to move forward, I hit the space bar.
That would be
Or
logical.
arrows, you know.
Okay. And the red doesn't show well in this environment, so I did a bad color choice. So these are 7 things, ideas and tools that are free. The books are free at the library that will help you in your business.
Will your deck be available afterwards?
Send me an email, and I'm happy to, because I actually was working on this up till, there was I was tweaking things, so I have to generate a PDF out of it.
I just want to know how furiously I should be taking
No, yeah, just take whatever strikes your fancy. And then we're going to talk about a productivity hack that I think will help everybody if you don't already have control of your email. The sweating and the denial begins. Okay, so the second best indicator of future success is your ability to have ideas. Are you showing both? No, you're not. Hang on.
No, but the video that we're seeing on this is.
Okay.
We're trying to fix that.
There,
there we go. Thank you.
Is that better?
Perfect. Thank you.
And the first best indicator of future success is the ability to implement those ideas. They work together. There's a lot of people that can get stuff done, no problem, but they have no idea what they're actually attempting to accomplish. And then there's plenty of people that have ideas all day long. I think that's a common problem in the internet circles of having shiny butterflies moving by and not necessarily knowing how to catch them and harness them and turn them into something. So this is going to be kind of a combination of the two, ideas and how to implement them. In this particular context, what I'm talking about, books equal ideas. I'm going to talk about 2 books that have profoundly affected how I think about business. And if you are not familiar with them, I can recommend them highly, and I'll explain to you why they're important. So here are the problems. How do you get people to change their mind? How do you get people to see your side of things? How do you validate other people's decisions so they know that you are on their side? This is extremely important psychologically from a marketing sense. And how do you get people to trust you when they don't know you? And the book that I recommend for that purpose is Influence by Robert Cialdini. He has 2 other books that are also very good. I actually, if you want to start out with a simplified version, actually, Yes is a better book, but Influence is what those 2 other books, Persuasion and Yes, are based on. This is the science of behavioral psychology. If you get very deep into marketing, or if you get a marketing degree, you spend a great deal of time talking about behavioral psychology. However, this doesn't just apply to marketing. If you're designing a website, or if you're writing content for a website, the behavior and the needs of the person who comes into that website is key to getting them to take action. So if you do not have an understanding of who your client is, what their needs are, what their pain that they're trying to solve by going online is, and how to address those issues, you're going to have a website that does not reach its full potential. Sales, this is important, and negotiations. I use stuff from Influence all the time when I go meet with a client so that I understand where they're coming from and how I can change their mind to come around to my way of thinking, which is to give me money. So some of the basic concepts of influence, and I'm sorry I didn't think about how bad this looks on the screen. The first in red is reciprocity. This is one I see over and over and over again on the web. Get a copy of our valuable white paper by giving us your email below. If you do something for someone, they have a compulsion to return to you. This goes back to living in the trees level of psychology. You can do something as simple as buying someone a Coke or a soft drink. They are more likely to give you money. This has been tested over and over and over again. Social proof. Hear what others say about us. The incredible power of testimonials. We, as monkeys, are afraid to go into situations where we have no evidence of what the outcome is going to be. So if we can get even a sliver of an idea that it's safe to do something, i.e. other people have done it and they have enjoyed it and had a good relationship, a good experience, we are more willing to do it. So we have to have social proof. You will, once you read these books, you are going to see these things over and over and over again in your daily life. Scarcity. This offer ends in 15 minutes. This special pricing only available to the first 500 callers. People, the minute they're able to put off a decision, they will not make that decision. So when you create scarcity in a situation, it forces them to either say yes or no by default. Authority. Sorry, I can't read this up here. Abdication of responsibility to another. Almost everyone does what a person of authority tells them to do. I first heard about this long before I found this book, a study that was done in regards to Nazi Germany, of whether the average person would torture another person if an authority figure told them to do so. And a shocking number, somewhere in the 80 to 90% of the range, of people will torture another human if a person of authority tells them to, and they are not responsible for it. People, it's good for groups. We don't survive unless there's a leader that tells us what to do. But on the flip side, there's a certain amount of evil that can come from abdicating our responsibilities to people in authority. Commitment and consistency. We see this on Facebook every day. Once a decision is made, any deviation that nullifies the original decision is ignored. That's what we're seeing with the anti-vax movement. That's what we're seeing with climate change. That's what we're seeing with a lot of people who have create a scenario, a storyline, and if you give them other information that doesn't match the storyline, they will totally ignore it. They'll do it over and over again. It's amazing. And liking. We attribute positive attributes to what we like. And the thing that comes out of this is we do business with those who we know, we like, and we trust. And all of these things affect that process. So once we have a way to flip those switches in someone's mind, they're much more likely to want to do business with us.
That's you.
So that is influence. So here's another book. And the problems that come out of this particular book are, how do you accomplish as much as possible with limited time and resources? I think we all are in this situation. When you get on the internet, when you're not farming with a plow and you get to wait till the fall to harvest, every single day is a whole bunch of stuff that has to get done. How do you manage the large amount of information that passes through your life and our business? We are currently in a tsunami of data. And I'm going to touch on this quite a few times in this presentation. This is not a natural situation for the human brain that we're living in right now. You're not supposed to take in this level of stuff. So at some point you have to create a structure of how you're going to deal with the amount of stuff that's coming at you so that you can break it down into bite-sized bits and eat that elephant one bite at a time. And how do you keep from getting overloading on information and yet take responsibility for it? If we work for ourselves, our responsibility is to our clients, hopefully making enough money that we can survive. And if we're working for somebody else, they're going to expect us to take responsibility for the stuff that's coming at us. So this is a major challenge. And one of the things that came out of this is a book that is consistently referred to in the internet community, which is Getting Things Done. How many people here have read Getting Things Done? Okay, so we've got a fairly big compliance. If you have not read Getting Things Done, it's going to blow your mind, honestly. Favored by a lot of knowledge workers, because this really is a structured outline of how to handle the amount of stuff that's coming at you. And it's often referred to as GTD. I'm going to refer to it as GTD in here. So now we still have the red type problem. Some of the basic concepts are you need to capture the information. Stuff's coming at you all the time, all these different places. You have to have a place to throw all that stuff into a big old bucket. Then you need to clarify. You need to determine whether or not the things that are in the bucket are actionable or not. Something. Organize. Move those things that are actions into a trusted system that you can turn into action. Delegate if you can. If you're self-employed, very rarely do you get to delegate. And put the non-action information where you can get to it at a later date or use it in a functional way. On a regular basis, you have to stand back from the process that you just went through in those 3 steps and look at it from a higher perspective, see if you're collecting the right information, see if you're doing the right things with the actions that you're doing. And then go into engagement mode be ready to take action. One of the basic concepts that I forget sometimes is if you can do something in less than 2 minutes when it comes at you, do it. Just do it. Get out of it. Because sometimes you know when you're getting your ADHD on, you go and you spend 2 minutes writing up something that would take you 2 minutes to actually do. So sometimes the recognition of that is really, really powerful. And deferring something is not an open-ended concept. That's called procrastination. Deferring it means that you set a time frame for which it will be done. So that's why a to-do list is a critical part of that process. Another concept that's in getting things done is the 43 folders concept. You have 31 folders for every day, and you have 12 folders for the months. When you get a physical object, you put it into the appropriate folder, either month or if it's in the next 30 days, 31 days, you put it in the day folder. So I never look for tickets to a show. I never look for documents that have to be on a certain date because it's always in the system. At the beginning, at the last Friday of the month, I go through the next month's file and I put all of those in place. The amount of stress that a 43 folder concept alleviates is massive. I go into people's offices that have stacks of paper everywhere. And you go, it freaks me out even being in here. You know, it's like the wall of paper, although it's not nearly what it was 20 years ago, but the wall of paper that some people have around them is very, very terrifying. And they spend an inordinate amount of their time trying to track down paper. It should not be that way. This is a system for taking paper and putting it in its place. And once you know where everything is, it's an incredibly freeing experience.
I want to take a picture.
Oh, you can just ask for the PDF.
Of you too.
You just ask for the PDF, people. You done? Come on now. Now she's laughing. She can't take a picture. Okay. So now that we've talked about 2 books of ideas.
I saw this today.
Did you?
Yeah.
I want to talk about 5 tools to take those ideas that I just talked about and to implement them and keep them in a trusted system. One of the basic concepts of getting things done is that you have to have a trusted system. The minute that you stop trusting a system for collecting information is the minute it stops being useful for you. Because then you're going, oh, now I have to make a system to take care of the system that's not working. And then you build a system on top of that system, and then you're back to square one, basically. So having tools that take those ideas and keep them in one place is very, very critical. You just need to put it where it needs to go and forget about it until such time you need it again, or if it's a date-driven thing, the actual thing happens. Is everybody with me so far? Oh, everybody's nodding. I just love that. All right. So here's a primary existential work problem that I have, and probably everybody who is a knowledge worker, and that includes now people who are not in the tech space, but pretty much every industry, every service industry, every business, retail, all of these different environments now work under an ongoing tsunami of data that's coming at them. And the technology actually in many cases, makes things work. In the late 1980s, the stock market was shutting down 1 day a week and was in danger of shutting down 2 days a week because literally the amount of data that the stock market had coming in was greater than the technology's ability to deal with it. And then the technology caught up. And so it got bigger, and so more and more data comes in, and this is happening to everybody, is that we have these tools now that can handle data, so it's coming at us more and more. And so we're going to talk about how to take that amount of stuff that's coming at us and put it into the proper box. So here's the work problem. This is where I physically work. This is my Banana Splits Club certificate. And that goes to show how old I am. I have a lovely view, and I have a lovely Macintosh, and I can stand up sometimes, and I can sit down sometimes. And it's a really nice place to work. And this is actually where my stuff gets done. The metaphor is water equals data. It is so astounding what has happened to us. There are more things coming into the published world of the internet than from the period of the Roman Empire to the end of the Renaissance. That is how much data is coming into the internet. And that's where I work and where probably a lot of you work. And so when we go and try and touch one thing, a million other things come in and fill in that spot. But the maximum throughput capacity of my brain at a computer is the equivalent of a straw to Niagara Falls. I can only handle a very small sliver, just a microscopic amount of the amount of stuff that's out on the internet at any given time. So I have to have, and you should have, a system in place so that you can get the most value out of everything that comes through that little tiny straw, so that you're not backing up behind it. So what I need and what you need is data that does not require me to go out and get it, because I have other things to do. Tools that let me and others work together with a minimum amount of distraction and change to our existing workflows. And tools that are my getting things done trusted system, where I can find valuable information that I need now or in the future. I'm in my 50s. I have not technically went into menopause, but I have seen a lot of stuff. And every time, sometimes something goes in the brain on this side, something shoves out the other side. So the less that I use my brain and the more I use technology, the more likely I am to be able to have creative and thoughtful brainism. As Melissa, I can't word now. So that's the tools that we're trying to get together. So in the category of communicating and creation, and this is our friend Richard Branson, complexity is your enemy. Any fool can make something complicated. It's hard to make things simple. But that's the challenge of what we should be doing with our tools, is simplifying. Now, a little bit about these tools. This presentation was originally written for people in the non-tech community, so in case anybody here is not in the non-tech community, what cloud computing is. All the tools I'm going to talk about are in the cloud. All of them are free. There are paid versions of all of these that do extra gizmos, but for general usage, everything is free. Because these are not on your computer, you can access them from multiple computers, including tablets and smartphones. And all of them have apps for mobile. And acts of stupidity on your computer do not affect your files, but acts of stupidity on the internet may affect your files. So there's something good to be said for that. Anyone who's had their computer go and seen large amounts of data go bye-bye will appreciate that the actual files themselves are somewhere else being cared for by somebody. So the first one I use is a program called Nimble. It is what is usually referred to as a CRM, and we'll touch on that. This is, the cool thing about Nimble, besides it having a pretty great interface, is it can go into my mail and grab all of my mail conversations with these people based on their email address. It goes and gets the social media. It says, is this the person that you want to talk to? And it'll go and grab all their social media and put it on the side. And it gives you the ability to watch their social media. So if you're paying attention to a particular person, or you want to get up to date with what that person's posted on Twitter and things like that, it's a single interface to do all that kind of stuff. And that's the part about going out and grabbing all that information about that person, which is really, really wonderful. So primarily customer retention management, I call it client retention management for myself personally. Everything that you have has to do with recording the relationship with that person is all in this one spot. So if I talked to somebody 9 months ago, I have a notation of what the outcome of that conversation was. It also manages your sales funnel. It'll show you, you can set up deals and say that you estimate that deal will probably close in 3 months. And it will show you all of the stages of the process for the client, so that you can go in to your sales funnel and see, oh, hey, this has been over 90 days and they're still futzing around. Maybe it's time to talk to the manager of that company or something like that. So it gives you reminders of where you are, both from a personal level and from a project or a sales level. And of course, the thing I was mentioning about monitoring social media to understand the clients and contacts better. You can, you may not have heard something from a client, but you saw that their son got hit in a car accident and they've been tied up for a few months. You're not going to be calling them and whining at them. And it gives you an opportunity to see what's actually occurring in that person's life, which is an excellent tool when you're trying to sell people. Any questions? Yes.
How is it with exporting lists and reports?
You can export your sales funnel. You can get all of that personal information as a report if you want to look at it on paper. You can have it on your phone. So because it's an app, you go to meet with somebody, anything you've ever recorded about that person is all on your phone. So it's a very useful tool, and it's free. You can get more bells and whistles, but the base version of it is absolutely free, which is wonderful.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Saved my life.
And I know Cole uses it too. Asana. I used Asana as my to-do list for a very long time. I'm also going to show you the thing that I use now. But as a to-do list for a knowledge worker who is self-driven and has to track where projects are at a particular time, Asana is awesome. It's great for to-dos. You can set up project steps. You can date those project steps. You can take all of the documents related to those project steps and attach them to each one of those steps. You can share Asana, which is great. I've worked with developers who use Asana as their primary, as their project management thing, and it's wonderful to be able to see where the steps are. And it's wonderful to see that those dates have just come and gone and nobody's ever really gotten upset about it, so at least you know where they are in the project. Repeating in long-range to-dos and attaching digital information to those to-dos. So when you're trying to corral stuff together and make it be in a linear, date-driven format, there's really nothing as good and simple to use as Asana. Are you a Asana user?
Heavily, yeah.
Yeah.
It literally saved my sanity. I was just ready to go out on stress leave. Possibly quit. And change everything.
Does it interface like with Outlook, like if you're
Not directly, but so like what I've done is for Inbox Zero, I have a few keyboard shortcuts, and so one of them is to-do list, and it just automatically forwards it to Asana, adds it to my to-do list, and I deal with it when I can.
Yeah, you can actually, it has that capability of having an email address that you can just send stuff to.
And actually, it can interface with your calendar. It's not.
That's what I meant.
It's not perfect, but it does work.
Or just use the keyboard.
It also configured the harvest.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, one of the nice things, and this is true of a lot of these cloud-based solutions, is they interface through APIs with one another. So sometimes you can hack together things just based on those kind of partnership things to make your workflow work better. Okay, this is long on so many levels. Hi. I like to have desktop things that, like, make me stop being freaked out about something and laugh for a second. Dropbox! Hey! Everybody loves Dropbox! Dropbox is awesome! Dropbox is for the web and desktop. Is there anyone here who does not use Dropbox?
I know.
So I speak to you, sir. You should use Dropbox.
Well, actually, if you're interested, there's another one called Tresora, which is more secure because Dropbox has had some security issues.
Right.
And there's a strong need on all of these cloud-based solutions to be able to ensure that your private data does in fact remain private.
Right.
And some of these solutions you're talking about are further along there than that.
Right.
Tresora's another one that's they actually have a $50,000 offer for anyone who can break into their system, and no one's yet been able to click on it.
What is that one?
Tresorit.
Okay. So because everybody uses Dropbox, I'm just going to do a quick one, and then we'll compare it to another thing that does something comparable, but is actually discretely different. Shared access between people and machines, available through the web and as a file folder on the computer. And all the presentations that I do in Dropbox, I put in Dropbox and then I can pick it up on my iPad and put my reading materials in Dropbox and pick it up on my iPad and my client files so the client can link to the documents. So it's awesome. And it's a game changer. If you are not using it, and nobody here is, it can make a huge
You
difference.
prefer that over Google Docs, similar concept?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, because
I
Google
use
Docs is,
Box.com because it takes larger video files and photo.
yes.
It's expensive.
Right. Dropbox, for the needs of 90% of the people out there, is going to be free.
It's big.
And it can, the reason that it's different than Google Docs, you can throw any file format into Dropbox. You can create it in any application and throw it all into the same bucket. Google Docs is an environment for creating documents and sharing them, but you're creating them effectively, unless you're converting it from something else, into the Google formats. So the ability of Dropbox to take a picture or a video file or a PDF or anything
Yeah.
is what makes it an important game changer. And then the access and the interface through the web. I've had people that are deeply technically challenged who can open a link in an email.
And if you need more space, you can always pay for more.
You
Yeah,
can pay for
it's
more,
pretty inexpensive.
or you can go tell your friends about how bitchin' it is, and they'll give you a half a gig every single time you do that. Yeah. So I've got like 5 gigs from
Just for
back in the
photos.
day,
Thanks.
and it's going to stay. It's probably going to cover my needs in the foreseeable future until we're all, having GoPros embedded on our foreheads and
There you
have to download
Never know, yeah.
that kind of stuff. So Evernote, I had an argument at a Japanese restaurant in San Francisco 4.5 years ago with somebody who was one of the first 20 employees of Microsoft, and he told me that Dropbox and Evernote were the same thing. Damn. Okay? So what Evernote's good for is keeping track of everything that's digital, but you can see it. When you throw it into Dropbox, it's a list, just like the file list on your computer. But in Evernote, you can actually see those objects, interact with those objects, add notes to those objects, make changes to those objects, and they're on all of your devices in that same way that you can see all of that information. That is a different sense to it. And because of the fact that it does OCR, your images are searchable too. So if you take a picture of a sign, all the words that were on that sign, assuming that they were somewhat legible, are going to be part of the search in Evernote. So that is an incredibly powerful thing into itself. And then the PDFs are automatically optical character recognition, so you can see everything that's in those documents. But the bigger your search becomes, the more esoteric your search terms need to become. You have the ability to tag. And who here is not familiar with the concept of tagging? Okay, I'm dealing with a tech audience. All right, so if you're religious about tagging in Evernote, you can actually get around information a lot faster because it's the way you think. If you tag stuff, it's what your brain sees as the absolute information for that one particular item. So we don't need to look at my tags in Evernote. So the primary differences between those two things, Dropbox is not meant to view things or edit items stored in it within the Dropbox environment. The contents of the files themselves are not searchable. Only the names of those files are searchable, and basically a storage folder system for files that are easily shareable. And Evernote, you can see and work with the files that you've saved, and everything, within reason, is taggable and searchable. So they serve very different functions.
So would you call that what I think I'm hearing is the document control system? Is Evernote a document control system?
Yeah, I mean, we'll touch on it when we're talking about the hack. But basically, yeah, we're snorting. And I took out the F-bomb in here.
We must be the same age.
when you get information coming in at you from that outside internet thing, there's going to be things that are actions and there's going to be things that are things. So Dropbox and Evernote, in most cases, is going to cover most of your needs to put them someplace so that they can be found or shared, or both. So that's why it's important. Yes?
Might Evernote be a good solution for digital business card management? Say taking a picture of somebody's business card and then chucking it?
Yes, and they actually have a plugin for that purpose.
Well, I'll be.
They have a lot of they have a lot of outside partners that do things. There's like recipe management attachments for Evernote, and there's all kinds of different third parties that create solutions that work within the Evernote environment.
The native app right now will scan business cards. If you do image, it'll give you the box and
Right,
it's
and then
just
it'll
kinda
read it,
built in
and
now.
then you can put it. Yeah,
Tag
but
it.
there are other apps that do that. But if you're Evernote centric, that's really helpful.
Evernote's cool.
Yeah, it's extremely cool. Yes, have you seen The Dragons in the Kitchen? The environment that we went to from Asana was actually is a program called Podio, and I'm surprised there's not a lot of people. Who here uses Podio besides there's Nate and my husband? The problem we were having that made us go from Asana to Podio is we were becoming more of an agency type of environment where there was a differentiation in what I did versus what my husband does. We had outside developers that needed access to particular projects. We needed to have an environment where everything that came into a project was in a single repository for that particular client or project. And Asana is kind of a linear path that can be broken down into sections. But it's hard to see the big picture within a set of listings. In this particular environment in Podio, you can create apps that do certain things. We have our client information, we have the SEO data, the passwords, stuff like that. We have Dropbox if there's individual documents that are separate for this particular client. We have notes, so like when I go to a meeting, I come back from a meeting, I type in all of the notes that were taken at that meeting so that they're all in the same folder for a client project. Then we have the upcoming tasks and who they've been allocated to. And everything, the action that occurs on a particular project within the context of Podio keeps showing up. And this is basically the dashboard for a particular project. So this is super helpful, yes?
Do either of them track time?
We're actually using a tool in conjunction with Podio now called Toggle, T-O-G-G-L. And so when we have a task that needs to happen, we hit the little red start thing, and it manages it out as a third party, all of the time that's allocated, and then at the end of the week, we can just go through and run reports if a client's billable or not billable, and it's tied into here, into the tasks that are in this particular program. And it also works in Chrome, and it also works in a desktop. So it's like Harvest except for morons. And it really, I tried to figure out Harvest, and I'm like, oh my God, if it isn't, brain dead simple, I'm not going to remember how to do it. So we ended up going with Toggle and the interfaces with this particular product. Single place to maintain all project information, links to Dropbox, secure form access. This is awesome. We don't use it that much anymore, but you can actually create very simple forms and send them via HTTPS to the client and have them fill it out, and it goes automatically into Podio so that there's documentation. Like if we were asking people what their primary keywords are and who they consider their competitors and stuff like that. So it allowed us to have a simple interface. The only thing that's a problem with sending that to clients is that clients go, oh, I have to do that. I'll put that off to later. And they're bigger procrastinators than we are. And so then you have to call them back. Have you filled out that form? Because it's not showing up in the box yet. And so it ends up that if you call them, you force them on. But you can also do it for people who are responsible, and it works just fine. You can very easily build your own apps with this. I'm no app builder, but I can create something pretty much on the fly in 10, 15 minutes.
Like what? What do you mean apps?
Like the situation with the SEO passwords, you can just create forms, and it's if that form needs to be referenced by another application. You just tell it, get this field out of this one and stick it over here. So it's easy to build simple dashboards like the thing that I showed you. That's a dashboard that's built from scratch.
Got it.
And took very little time. My learning curve is very, very short on that. So right now we're using it as task management and our calendar because it has a list of tasks.
Task management's intense.
Yeah, the task management is really, really nice because it takes from all your different projects. If he makes it, if I assign him something and he makes a change, I see it show up on my dashboard that there was a change made.
Mm-hmm.
So it keeps us in sync as to when he finishes something, when I can see it. So it keeps us in sync, and I can go in and see the stuff that he hasn't done, and he can see the stuff I haven't done. So we have it's a communication medium that is very intuitive between the two of us, without texting each other back and forth, which we do that too. And then the basic contact information, when I meet with the client, I have Nimble, and I have all of the data for those clients. So now we have a new client. We create a new project folder. All of their stuff goes into their client information sheet. So I don't have to worry about whether or not he has the ability to contact those people because he's got everything. So
you use Nimble along with Podio?
Right. I'm the sales person, so I have the whole client at some point and out. Once they become a real client, they go into Podio. And then they become part of the work cycle. But for me, he doesn't need to know who I'm talking to and where they are in the process. But once it becomes a project, he needs to know everything there is to know about it. Yes?
How do you use Podio in combination with Asana?
I don't use Asana anymore.
Oh, you don't?
No. The only time I used it for about 2.5 years. And I have one project where one person uses Asana, and I can go into Asana and see what the status of that one project is. But that's because I'm working on it. I don't need to work on it internally with my partner.
So you use Podio instead?
I use Podio instead.
So that was
switched
my
over
main
to
question
that.
is, what was the main reason for you to switch over? I don't know if you've already said that.
The main reason to switch over was it was becoming too complex to keep all those documentation and where we are in the project and, stages and deliverables, all those different things Asana is not really set up to do.
Oh, so you
And
need to do a
because
little bit more.
he and I were working together, it was hard to have a universal spot where all this stuff was. And then it became even more complex when we had outside developers who were coming in, doing parts of the job, web developing a project, we were doing the SEO. We need to be able to see both. We say, why don't you just come in and let me give you access, we can put it all in one spot. So when Asana started becoming more moving deck chairs on the Titanic than watching for icebergs, I said, I have to figure out another way of doing this. And I started looking at project management things. And most of the project management things are, let us build a linear timeline with segmentation of deliverables. And I went to college for project management. And I'm like going, oh my God, my eyes are glazing over, I can't take this.
So this is more layers than Asana. Nothing as complicated as, say, like a thing.
Not even close. I
Okay.
tried to figure out Basecamp and my eyes bled.
Basecamp.
I'm a very visual person, and Podio is a very visual solution.
Okay.
So that's what helps me with it.
But I'm
Yes.
confused on how you're using Nimble for your CRM with Podio.
Once Nimble is, I have like 1,700 people in Nimble.
So that's like your contact list.
That's my
but
contact
your
management.
project.
This is my project management.
But how do you synchronize the?
Once someone says, well, yes, I am going to write you a check, and I'm going to send it to you in the mail, and I get it in the mail, I go, yay, we have a project, and I go create a project.
Do you have to manually do that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. There's no
Got it.
magic thing. But because there's only like about, in the history that we've been using Podio, which was the spring of last year, there's about 45, 50 projects in there. There's about 1,700 people in Nimble. And Nimble is people that I meet at networking things and everybody in one big bucket. Project is a project, and it has its lifespan, and then we can archive it, and then we have all the notes and everything that ever happened with that particular project. So that's the benefit between the two.
Tell them about, you can also sync iCal calendar. It will actually import your tasks into iCal. So you create tasks, and you can create the dates that they're due and you can create the people, add the people that are working on that particular task, and in Podio, and then it will sync it to iCal.
Right.
Okay, that's
So if you're iCal centric, and it also works with Google Calendar, and it does a lot of cross information. You can import information into it. There's a lot of different tools, but it is a freestanding project manager. Is really great. Yes.
So I have a capture question for you, and I don't know if you're going to. If you're standing in Pete's or you're walking down the street, and you think, "Oh shit, I have to change the background of that graphic to green." I promised Harry I would do that.
Right.
What do you do? How do you capture that?
For me personally, I have an iPhone. I go to the notes section. No, not in Podio.
Oh, just your notes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Or
you-
just send myself an email or whatever. That's going into the bucket. Now, if I wanted, I could make a task in Podio, but that's advanced. me, it's all, or I want to have the voice message thing and I say, change that background to green, email it, yes. And then I have a little thing and it comes into my email. Email is, for me, the bucket where everything comes in.
Email is how you.
Yeah,
is your-
for me personally. You could do it in the app if you want to, but I'm not. I don't have super prehensile thumbs, so it's kind of painful for me. So here's bonus number 2. Yes.
Yeah.
Have a massive failure and start all over again.
The nuclear option.
So
Seriously.
here's the concept. Here's the productivity hack. Email is not a filing cabinet. What? Say what?
Folders are for.
Wow, bravo, woo! Okay, so I know that sounds like a really basic concept, and somebody here earlier talked about inbox zero. Inbox zero is a state of perfection in which we can only aspire and rarely reach. And when we do reach it, 20 minutes later, some clown's going to send you an email. So,
Jerk.
so it's gonna be something that we chase with vigor, and we very rarely succeed in grabbing it. But if you take the basic principles that I talked about in getting things done and apply it to your email, you will end up with a communications tool instead of a filing cabinet, which is what it's meant to be, is a communication tool. Filing items and actions that come to you from email into your trusted system allows you to see what hasn't been processed, keeps you focused, you handle each item only once. That's another thing to aspire to, is to only handle things once, and it minimizes your stress. My husband, for some reason...
My name's Mark.
Yes, Mark, I keep forgetting. He uses his inbox as his to-do list, which is what I've heard so many people say, oh, I use my inbox as a to-do list. So you have 783 things you need to do today? And he actually usually has like between 5 and 10 items in his inbox, and it just shocks the crap out of me. But for all of you people who constantly strive to have an email box that does not stress you every time you open it up and look at it, shooting towards inbox zero is important. The other issue about inbox zero is that if you are reactive to email all day long, you will actually not get much done, because it is the ultimate distraction.
I have a question. So, when you get up in the morning, you check your email. Oh, I need to answer this person, and answer this person, and then this person at some point today.
That's what we're going to cover. There's people who are
knows. I am a train wreck.
People who are hard asses about email say don't check your email first thing in the morning.
I know.
Yeah.
And that is like, yeah, in a perfect freaking world, we don't check our email first thing in the morning. But red line at the top, you need to have a trusted system. That's the first issue. You're letting stuff get into a bucket and live there because you don't have any place else to put it. So, set up a filing system matches your current projects, interests, and categories. Extra points for having a universal filing system that you use everywhere. When I was talking about tagging, tagging is a very broad concept. I want to find this later, and I want to find everything that has to do with Facebook marketing, so I'm going to have a tag called Facebook marketing. Totally acceptable. But you're going to have different software programs that have different systems. As much as possible, you should have a universal system. Work, personal. House, pets. Projects, business docs. And it goes down in a tree format from there. If you can sit down with an outlining program and create a universal filing system, all your email and everything else in the same structure, you're going to find it much easier on your brain than what did I call it in Evernote versus what did I call it in email versus what did I call it in Dropbox. So that's extra bonus points. Have a to-do action list where you can collect future action information, aka to-do list discussed previously. Once you have those two pieces, what do you do with objects? What do you do with actions? You can start in on your email. Open your email and look at the email and determine, you probably can't see that, what do I do with this email? That is processing versus checking. It can only have one of three actions. You review it and maybe unsubscribe if it's not useful to you, then trash it. You review it, you take action now, the 2-minute rule, can I get it done in less than 2 minutes? Or add it to the to-do action list and then archive it, file it, or trash it. Out. It's out of your box. Review, then archive and file. Out. Period. If you can do one of those three things to every single piece of your mail, you have processed your email. That's it. If it has a quick response, do it. If it's something that you're working on right now, leave it in your inbox for today. At the end of the day, empty it out. And we're going to talk about the emptying out process. And if you allocate time to process your email, you can do this.
What do you mean by archive or file?
If you're using Gmail, and there are other systems, you basically have a giant bucket called archive.
Throw it over your shoulder.
Right, throw it over your shoulder. You can find it later if you need it.
Yes.
If it's on the project you're working on right now, you probably want to have a folder so that when that clown calls you and wants to start yammering about something you sent them 2 weeks ago, you can open that file instantly and see the last 25, the 25 things that are related to that project, and then pick out the one that they were talking about. And I actually had to do that today, and I was like, thank you, God. So you have now looked at all these things. The reason email builds up so quickly is that it takes just a minute to check email, but it doesn't take a minute to process email. Process, it isn't dealt with. You have to allocate time in your schedule during the day to process email. It's a time activity just like everything else. Because we get used to this, oh yeah, I saw that email, and oh yeah, I got that one thing, and oh yeah, I did this, and oh yeah, my ADHD is going, it just keeps building up. It just keeps stratifying and getting thicker and thicker and thicker. And that's the bitch of email. You have to be ruthless in terms of processing it. And then, when you're done processing, or let's say you allocate, the way I do it is I have 5 15-minute blocks in a day. And that allows me to take care of pretty much everything. My 15 minutes are up, I haven't dealt with it, I close my email and I come back to it during the next block of time that's allocated for email. And if I don't get to that 15 minutes because something went off the rails, I've got another cycle coming up where I can deal with it. And at the end of the day, I go through and clean it out. And I might leave 3 to 5 things in there that I'm waiting for something for somebody. But I understand that those 3 to 5 things are the beginning of a very slippery slope. If you don't clean them out, tomorrow those 25 things will pop in, and it'll start. The whole game will start over again tomorrow. Setting up a schedule. Set aside regular intervals to process your email. Do not leave your email open unless your work is checking email. I'm not going to tell people don't leave your email open, because there actually are jobs that all they do is check email. And hopefully you'll have your brain left in 20 years, because the ability to be distracted by email is amazing. So theoretically, in that dream universe where your email's coming in, you're not looking at it because you don't have it open. Then you have a minute block. You open it up, 7 emails come in, you deal with them, you get them out of the way, you process them, your inbox is empty. The next thing that comes in, you can be focused on that item. Instead of opening your email and going, oh crap, which is what most people do, it causes them stress when they go in and look at all the stuff that's waiting for them to be dealt with. But everybody's allocated time and frequency intervals are different, both by the load of stuff that's coming at them, by the importance of the stuff that's coming at them, and by their personality and their working routines. Me, I try to work about 90 minutes and then take a short break and look at email, and then work for 90 minutes and take a short break and look at email. So that's my particular cycle.
So would it help if I took email off my phone?
Yeah, and
actually, that's the whole other thing. Looking at email after
yeah,
hours.
and that's a different. I'm actually talking about the desktop world. But yeah, when you're on your phone, it's very easy to do the well, they used to call them crackberries back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
But the crack of spending time on the phone rather than dealing with the world that's around us.
Because even if I close my email, I'm still getting notifications on my phone saying, you have an email.
And you can turn that off.
That's what I'm saying. Like, by habit, I go. So
yeah, and we're training ourselves to be rats in a wheel with our phones. So as much as possible, try and withdraw from the crack. Step away from the crack, and make it be a actual process. Now, when I go to a client meeting and I'm in the meeting for an hour and a half, I do, as soon as I get in my car, before I start it up, I take a quick look at my phone to see if something went completely off the rails. Sure. That's the only purpose. It's not to be processed. It's not to be dealt with. I want to see if something went off the rails. Yeah. And if it didn't go off the rails, I next interval. Put it away. I do not check my mail at stop signs. I think we've all experienced that thing of seeing people drive like idiots and then looking over and seeing them texting or futzing with their phone. That's evil. So the next step after that, assuming that you've started to have some basic good hygiene habits with your email, is to slow the flow. I have found it, I've been really focused on inbox zero for about 2 months now. And I am still getting things from mailing lists that I signed up for years and years ago. They don't send very frequently. I'm killing them one bug at a time. Go through as I see things to throw away, and I'm unsubscribing from them. Yes?
I have a separate email address that I use just for that stuff.
Right.
For subscriptions, for any time I sign up for things, they go to that one. So I don't even have to, I just go and hit delete and that.
Right. And you do a quick scan to see if there's anything you care about and throw it out. And that's good hygiene too.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Gmail promotions and social made such a big difference.
Yes. So if you use, we funnel everything through Gmail, and if you use any part of Gmail, they're now breaking away what they think are promotions and social. I find that some of the things they think are promotions are kind of weird, but it is helpful.
It's also harmful.
I don't use that feature because I use SaneBox, which I absolutely love. Because
Yes.
I have a Sane archive folder.
Right.
And I can start to, I'm telling it, this is something that I can just scan and maybe not have to deal with.
Right.
Yeah, so I love SaneBox.
Yeah.
It's great.
There's a lot of different things to deal with this, but once you see email as a communication medium, it becomes simpler to just say, oh, screw it, I don't need to get a sales sheet from a place that I visited 3 years ago.
Right.
Another way to do it is if you're just kind of grooving and you're just kind of throwing stuff away, is at the end of the day, your last check of the day is to go into your trash and unsubscribe for everything that you trashed that day. And that's another way to stop the inflow. Because it gets very easy, unless you're giving away another email address, to just sign up for things over a period of time, and then it starts to fall into the heading of it will take more time to fix this problem than to deal with the problem right now. And then you're ending up spending 15 to 20 minutes every single day dealing with the same problem over and over again because you won't allocate an hour once to get rid of the problem, or an hour once a week to get rid of it forever.
I have a question, and
Yes.
maybe you're going to cover it, but I actually did at the beginning of the year have 0 inbox, promotion, social, but I have like 100 folders. But I was trying to use the task function, like take an email and then turn it into a task. But then I think I've missed stuff because when I when I trash the email, the task went away.
Okay, a task in what environment?
Gmail.
If you create a task out of an email, it's making that connection. So if you so if you delete it, you can't. It's like in it's the same in Outlook. If you create a task, and then you delete the email, the task no longer exists.
Goes away, which is crazy. So do you have a solution on how do you, or like sometimes I'll forward an email if I need a document history and throw it into a Word document and save it under the client file?
I'm a believer that you should have discrete tools for discrete functions. And that's one of the reasons why I have Apple Mail, and I've used Apple Mail since Eudora days. And I do not have any to-dos, reminders, anything in there, because I want mail to be mail, reminders to be reminders, and to-dos to be to-dos.
So if you get an email and you need to turn that into a task or an appointment, what do you do? You just...
I go to Podio, I type myself a note. If it needs to be saved, I say email is in project file.
Okay. So
and I get rid of it, or I put it in. If it's a project, part of a project, I put it into the project folder for that. That's just my thing.
Do you have a timer tool that you use for time boxing these tasks?
Taskbar. I'm Mac. Taskbar in the App Store. It puts up a little red bar at the top, and it runs down until you can say it's going to be 20 minutes. I'm going to allocate to this particular task, and it runs through like that. I'm not using Taskbar as much now because I use Toggle. And Toggle keeps a record of everything that I've done, and it makes time billable, and it does the math for me, and does that kind of stuff. So Toggle does the same thing. It has a little thing saying, you spent 43 minutes futzing with your, setting up your desktop. Schmuck, huh? So, you know, one of the things that I'm learning...
Say that, does it?
One of the things I'm learning through Toggle is how much time I waste on maintenance.
Oh, that's good.
So how do I compress the maintenance process as much as possible? Which is one of the things what's making me say to myself, throw that sales letter out and unsubscribe from it because you don't care if you ever see it again. You know, and don't like everything on eBay because they're going to send you goddamn emails. So it's causing me to focus down so that my maintenance time is as productive as possible without too much futzing around. Yes.
You just to-dos and reminders as two different things. What's the difference for you? What's the difference?
I'm not a big reminder person. You know, the iPhone has reminders so that when you go by the dry cleaners, pick up your shirt, or you go by Oliver's, pick up your eggs, or whatever it is. My brain doesn't work that way. So when I go out, I already know what I'm going to be doing. I don't need to be told to pick up eggs when I drive by the store. That's how my particular brain works. The only reminders I run is in Evernote, because a lot of times I drop documents into Evernote, but I actually do want to read them, so I put a reminder. So every time I go into Evernote, it tells me, you know, allocate some time to reading this stuff.
Is that a tag, or when you say
there's reminders in Evernote, and it's on the site. Because a lot of times you dump stuff into Evernote and it goes into the abyss. So you have to have something that keeps it on the top. Someone have a hand back there? So, okay, no. All right. So, draining the swamp. Let us drain the swamp. If you have, if your inbox is stuff, you know, you've learned all these nice new things, but you still got 32,000 things in your email. You have to dig your way out to see the bottom. Estimate 1 to 2 minutes for every single email that you need to process. Work in short bursts of 30 minutes to an hour, possibly over days and weeks. It is extremely mentally taxing, and we forget how hard this work is sometimes to make decisions, take actions, build structures out of data. And that's what you're going to have to do to get to the bottom of your email. So there is a way out. It's, you know, it's the eating the elephant one bite at a time method. That, or you can say, oh, my software exploded. And anybody who comes back in the next 6 months and says, I sent you an email in April, what the hell happened? You can say, oh, my email died. So that's the other way to get through the bottom of your inbox, is just to trash your software and
have you ever texted someone and they text back and say, I'm sorry, I lost my address book. Who is this? Did you?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Have some contact. You say,
yeah. I'm not the most adept texter. I have a client right now I'm texting back and forth with, and I think I've had to have 3 different times where I've sent a message to my husband to him. And then I have to write the acknowledgement from my partner Mark conversation. And he's been cool about it, and usually I don't say curse words or say bad things about my clients in text, so I'm covered, but still, it's kind of sad. A clean inbox is an awesome inbox.
Nice.
Yes.
There's a question.
Awesome. Yes.
Okay. You know, what you're saying about, I have a kind of a crazy system because I have about 15 to 17 email accounts that I sign up for different, one's called friends, one's called family, one's called business, you know, and I sign up for different things, or people, I give different people contacts, which may be confusing in the end, but there's some things like, let's take WIMP. How many WIMP emails does everybody get a day? You know, Melissa's sending out a few, Josh is sending out a few, you know, it just adds up. And a lot of these, oh, this is really interesting, this is a great link, you know, or maybe Nate has something. You don't have time to read it then, but...
Throw it in Evernote.
Yeah. So this would go in Evernote, because they're
that's
good
where
things that I want to refer back to, but then if I don't leave them in my inbox, but then they're in a particular inbox.
Well, let's say you get, somebody sends you something, and this happens to me regularly, that, for the sake of argument, is Facebook marketing. And you look at it, you read the first paragraph, you like where this is going, but you don't have usage for it at this moment, but you're going to in the future. Evernote's a place to write notes to yourself in the future. So you say, the next time I need to know something about Facebook marketing, I need to know this link. So I hit that link, I throw the link into Evernote, I grab the entire article, I just go, I throw the entire article into Evernote so that it's searchable. So if there's a particular person or something that's referenced in the article that I'll need to know in the future, and if I want to see that article in its entirety context, I have the URL, I tag it with Facebook marketing, and I move on with my day. And that process takes a minute. And I have the value of that knowledge without using the time until I actually need it. Then when a client 6 months from now says, I really want to get my act together about Facebook marketing, I can hit the tag for Facebook marketing, I can see 25 really good articles, I can quickly skim through those articles and say, okay, these two really fit what this person is trying to do.
So you're actually seeing the physical article, not just the link.
Right, because you can just highlight the whole article in the web and throw it into Evernote, and it's fully searchable. So now I've got 2 articles, and I can say, go back to the conversation and say, in email, hey, here's 2 really good resources, I'd like you to read these 2, and then you'll have a pretty good idea of what the issues are, and then we can discuss it. And so that's part of what we do as web developers and online marketers, as we are consultants for our clients. They're coming into this world that they don't quite understand in many cases and have weird concepts about. So part of ours is to manage expectations and to educate them enough so that they can make somewhat lucid decisions. So we're taking all of this content together. We're learning as much as we can, but to be frank, there's too many things to learn too quickly. So if you have a system, a trusted system, for going back into all of the data that you collect over time and pulling out the really good stuff and either helping yourself to know stuff or helping your client to know stuff, that's what the purpose of all this stuff is. And the problem is we get disconnected from, oh, somehow magically, I'm one of those people that buys books and I'm going to magically absorb them by owning them and having them next to my bed. They'll come into my brain while I'm sleeping. I've gotten to the age where I realize that that doesn't work. So I have Evernote to these things that are coming at me, make some sense of them. And it only literally takes minutes, to go through and make it so it's findable in a future date, so that I can be, if someone comes to me and has some weird esoteric thing about analytics, man, I got a stack of stuff in Evernote about analytics that I can find stuff as faster than going into Google. And same thing for AdWords, and same thing for Facebook, and same thing for a lot of different things. It's impossible to know all the stuff you need to know in our industry, but you can corral that information in an intelligent way, and that's one of the great things about Evernote. Did that answer it?
Yeah, because this is a huge, you've got your projects and everything, but this sharpening the saw, or this gaining of knowledge with all these great people sending out this stuff, and then you start drowning in it, but you don't want to toss it.
Right,
So
and that's why if email is your primary funnel, as it is for me, the ability to process that into a state where you can move it somewhere else.
Yeah.
So it's not in your inbox or hanging over you or lost, is really key to being functionally literate in this amount of data that we're dealing with. Did you have a question?
Yeah, can you back up your Evernote?
Can I back up my
Can you
Evernote?
back up the
Can you back up the files and information that are online?
That's a good question. I have no idea.
You can do it down if you want. Maybe
You download it
compress
as
it
it down?
and stick it in a Dropbox corner or something.
With the premium, they back it up online for you.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I never thought about it. Me, silly me. Here's a final thought, and we can have questions afterwards. The work is going to fill a large part of your life, and the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work, and the only way to do great work is to love what you do. If you haven't found it yet, keep looking and don't settle. Because it all matters of the heart. You'll know when you find it. Steve Jobs, Stanford Commencement Speech, 2005. A really powerful thing to think about in the work that we do. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think Everybody got at least one thing? That was what I was shooting for.
I really want to go home and clean up my inbox now.
I'd love to hear you talk a little bit about
Yeah,
goal setting, because, you know, listening to you talk about, you come across these interesting documents, and I mean, I think it's really important to sit down on some time frequency. That's, I have to say, New Year's resolutions is too long a period.
Yeah, it is.
That like something weekly, monthly, where you take a quiet hour and you think, what am I doing with my life?
Right.
What are the kind of climate, you know, some bigger picture stuff.
Well, part of getting things done is reflection. On a weekly basis, on Fridays I review the week and set the schedule for the next week. At the end of the month, I clean out the files through my 43 folders and I see what's happening. There's goals up on the board, and I usually do that on a monthly, 2-monthly basis. Every quarter, I review all of my outline of my project structure. You know, where we at, what projects have come in, what projects have went out and been processed. But the 10,000 feet, as I call it in getting things done, where you're standing back and saying, what is the structure of my life? At this particular moment in time, I'm down at the 10-foot level on a regular basis, hoping to move up to the 10,000-foot level. But it's important because it's very easy for things to go off the rails if you're managing huge amounts of data. But yeah, I don't want to. I think that's a larger project, but I do understand that part of this process of dealing with the information age is that you have to consistently, either on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis, quarterly basis, 6-month basis, and yearly basis, be consistently looking back and ahead of you at all times, or it just completely comes off the rails. That's the best thing I can talk about goals. Any other questions?
Well, this Lynda.com just signed up David Allen for getting things done. So he has tutorials on, if people are subscribed to Lynda.com, he's got videos on there.
Yeah, Lynda.com is excellent for all kinds of stuff. And David Allen also does very expensive programs. And that's one of the few things that I've kept on my mailing list, because he sends out a weekly notification. Also, Cialdini, the guy who did Influence, he has a either bi-weekly or tri-weekly newsletter of whatever the latest studies are and having to do with behavioral psychology. So that's also a good one to be on. Any other questions?
So when those come, you stick them in Evernote.
Yeah, if there's something important. But that's part of, if you set aside 15 minutes to process stuff and you don't have a lot of stuff in your inbox, you can actually read things that come in. What a concept, as opposed to like, I'll read that later.
What's your take on contexts? GTD context versus...
I never could wrap my head around that.
Okay.
It's not, I'm a kind of a pragmatic thinker, so they want you to, context is I'm in the car, and context is I'm in my desktop,
But he wrote that.
On my mobile.
He wrote that a long time ago, whereas now you're always, a lot of people.
Yeah, they're all. I have my phone sitting here, and I have my desktop here, and I've got my car can take my phone calls, and it's all kind of mushy now, as opposed to, I'm in my living room. Yes.
Do you, 2 questions. So you're not using file folders for emails then? You're just going straight, if it's something you want to capture, you're throwing it into your...
No, if it's an email and it's on a project, it goes into the current client project folder, name of project.
In your email?
In my email. When that project's completed, it comes out of current clients and goes to the past clients. Now,
in your inbox? In your email?
On the side of my email program. Okay. Just like if Gmail calls it tags.
I don't know, I just use folders.
Or yeah. So if you use folders, I use folders, because when the phone rings and it's that guy, I want to just have all those emails in one place without having to do a search.
Right.
Because there may be 10 different people that I'm dealing with on a single project. If I search by name, I'll never figure out who sent what. I just put them all in the same folder for each project.
And do you have a software that you recommend for like mind mapping?
I use MindMeister Online.
Is that a free one too?
Up to 3 is free.
Some of these have gotten really expensive.
They've got really expensive.
They start free and then
I also use, personally, for wireframing stuff and for figuring out the content of site is, I use OmniGraffle. which is Mac. I don't know if it's for Windows.
It's not.
It's not? Okay. And I use Omni Outliner for outlining stuff. OmniGraffle, you just take boxes and make arrows and make any kind of thing you want to do. But a straight up mind mapping program. I've used Meister, M-E-I-S-T-E-R. They give you 3 for free. And when I get done with one, I throw it away or I print a copy of it. And I've never had to go outside of free. When I'm working with a client and we're doing a very large project, I just like to be able to go look at it and make changes to it, and we can kind of work together on a mind map. That's the only reason I use MindMap.
MindMup is free. M-I-N-D-M-U-P.
MindMup?
MindMup.
Oh boy, that must have been a good day at the domain place.
Yeah.
And on a related note, for those interested, I'll be demonstrating OmniGraffle for wireframing on the 23rd.
Oh, hey.
Julie knew it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
what?
I have a follow-up question too. I've always considered Gmail to be ahead of the curve when it comes to email consistency. Gmail uses tags rather than focusing on folders, and I'm used to using folders for client relations. Am I missing out on something involving tags that I'm unaware of?
No. It's just the metaphor that they use. But a tag is also can be in the structure, just like a file. So I've never really played with it that much, and then I've been working 2 days a week at a contract client. And about 2 months in, I realized, hey, I'm throwing all those things in a file on my desktop, and I can't access any of those emails. So I went and created a current client folder, and then put the client name in there, and now I can throw when I'm on my Mac, at my desktop, at my office, I can throw it into my Gmail folder, which is actually a tag as far as Gmail is concerned.
Right.
And then when I go to the client, all of those email records are in Gmail. When you can hook Gmail up to Apple Mail so that all of your
folders,
tags / folders are visible on Apple Mail. And it treats it just like a file folder in Apple Mail, but in actuality it's a Gmail tag. It's a different metaphor, it's the same damn thing.
Yeah, I thought it was very redundant, that's why I didn't use it.
Yeah.
I never use tags, I just use file folders.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yes.
By the way, we still have a couple copies left across the street.
That's hilarious.
I beat you.
Well played, sir.
Is anyone using Slack? Has anyone heard of Slack?
Yeah.
Yes.
Apparently it's just going great guns. It's
Very
super
good.
helpful.
What is it?
There's a WIMP Slack channel.
There is.
It's a channel of communication for your team and for clients, and it's kind of like this stream. It's like this flow with attachments to. Has its Asana link.
It's a chat room.
Yeah, it's the updated version of IRC for the nerdy people in here to remember that. It's just a basic chat room whose functionality is relatively limited in capability, but it does allow instant communication via Teams. So there are also public Slack chat rooms. One that I use is UX Slack chat, and people over the world talking about UX. So if you're interested in that stuff,
links to Dropbox, links to about 8,000 different.
Right, so if you have a document that you want to share in the chat.
Does it archive these conversations or do they disappear?
I don't have an educated answer.
It archives it up until a certain point, and once you've exceeded so many messages, it kind of like locks them until you pay for it.
It extorts you until you pay for it?
We have our rotator Slack group that we use constantly, all day, every day, to just, you can break it up into different topics. So we've got our WIMP camp room and our WIMP space room and our business development room where we only go to talk about business development stuff, and then we've got our good more cool stuff. We swear by it now.
So,
it's so great.
Since I have never seen the interface, but one of the things about shutting off email, and this also comes up in the issue of chat rooms and things like that, and text and all that other stuff, is we're beginning to have the attention span of flies. That it's like a pinball machine that goes constantly, and then if the pinball machine isn't going off, we feel weird. And when you're trying to actually do productive mind work, it's very, very hard to function when you've got ding, 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 notifications going on. So one of the things is that if you start feeling like, gee whiz, I'm not actually getting anything accomplished, more and more software programs are putting in single screen environments, writing environments, things that shut off all the other things that are going on around you. And I think that's one of the lessons to take away from the issue of inbox zero is that if you have a ton of distractions, or chat rooms are important. You've got to have conversations with the people that you're working with, especially when you're working in an interactive environment. But when you actually, whenever you possibly can, try to block 20 or 30 minutes and just do one thing. One of the things, there's a study that came out probably 6 months to 9 months ago about, for years people thought young people were better multitaskers than older people. And basically, after doing a lot of studies, the conclusion that they came to was that young people think they're better at multitasking because they don't know what a shitty job looks like.
Yeah.
But when you get older, you know what a shitty job looks like.
Yeah.
And you go, man, I really sucked at this job. I shouldn't do two things at once. So the important thing is to know that you
Yes, do you hear that, young people? You don't.
They have a the important lesson to take away from this is, if you don't do one thing at a time, you're going to do a crappy job.
This is the key wisdom of the evening, right?
Yes, exactly.
Some do more than
So
one
I
thing.
know when I'm doing a crappy job and I have to focus. Until you've turned in some really crappy papers and done some really crappy work and recognize it, you won't realize that you have to focus exclusively on one thing at a time to really do a good job.
Because you're really not doing multiple things at one time anyway, are you? You're spending a tiny amount of time on one thing, and then you're flipping and spending a tiny amount of time on something else. You're not really doing multiple things at once.
And billing software and creating billing software will teach you this. That every time that you switch gears, there's a time frame that you have to get, you have to get the transmission going, and then you can actually get something accomplished. So one of the things I've taken away from using time billing software is, if I can get 5 hours of focused real work done, I have had an awesome day. And that's an 8 to 10 hour period. Because there's distractions, there's phone calls, there's going to the bathroom, there's all of the different things that can happen in a day. If you can get focused work 4 to 5 hours a day, you are kicking it. Really. Yes.
Case in point, Facebook. Today, I don't know how many times I had to refrain from responding to the Kanye West bullshit.
Dude,
seriously.
Somebody is wrong on the internet.
I mean, I've seen the Grammys.
I don't even know.
He's just him.
I've seen the Grammys once in my life. I didn't see him last night, so I have no idea what he did, or what. I wouldn't even know his voice if I heard it. However, somehow I feel like I need to respond saying, who the fuck is this? But the fact is, why would I even spend the time doing that? So I'm like, so these little distractions keep on come up and eating, as you say, nibbling away at the...
At your time.
Yeah.
Turn off Facebook.
Turn off Facebook.
Is there, honestly, I wish there was a way to put a lockdown on Facebook. But to not let you log in?
Use the Chrome browser, there's extensions that will do exactly that. You can say, do not allow me access.
I need to know this information.
I know. This is like software to keep you from picking up a fork for a diet. I mean,
if you're friends with Natalia on Facebook, throughout the day you'll see 5 or 6 bursts of 5 or 6 article shares.
I wanted a friend Natalia.
So you're using Facebook as Evernote, is what you're doing.
Facebook is my
Evernote. You can just look at your postings to see everything that you've seen.
I do that all the time. They post and
I'm sorry.
Pinterest is using it.
They say sharing this to read later.
Yes.
I don't do that. That's annoying.
No, I've never seen you do that.
Yeah, that's
People
annoying.
do sharing to read later. Well, why don't you just bookmark it?
Bookmark it.
Right
Yeah,
let me know about it.
Yeah, as
Because
opposed to
you
having
know
all
sharing. Actually, do that on Twitter.
Yeah.
No, irresponsible Facebook sharing.
Yeah. So, the ability to filter and focus. And I'm bad too. I check Facebook 5 to 15 times a day, but I check it to see if anybody sent me anything. I don't read it except once a day at the end of the day.
I save that for when I'm on the cam.
There you go. And then Kanye makes perfect sense because you're on the toilet.
Exactly.
So I'm talking to Jared. He's on the
I'm
toilet.
pointing to points for relativity.
Chances are, yeah.
Toilet.
Yes.
Trademark.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
Hashtag toilet Facebook.
It's the best time to see that domains available.
Checking now.
Or even better, potty-tivity.
Yeah, potty-tivity.
No, toiletivity.
Potty interest.
So how do you stay on top of your processing? Is it just a matter of routine and or doing it at the same time every day or something? Because that is really where I have fallen down. Like I have implemented the getting things done system.
It can be yours for $10.69 a year on namecheap.com.
And so, like, where I fall down with it is just not, like, my inbox, like, I'm talking about my physical inbox, my paper stuff, just stacks. It doesn't, I don't process it daily. I don't get to it, and then I go, I'll get to it tomorrow, and then I don't get to it. Yeah.
Do you use iCal?
Yeah.
Okay, so I have my day broken down into blocks, like appointments, like if you set aside an appointment at a time. So at the beginning of the day, 6:15, check email. 6:30 to 8 o'clock, 90-minute block. 30-minute break, in there 15 minutes to check email. 90-minute block, 30-minute break, 15 minutes of that is checking email. Another block,
set notifications,
lunch, and then the notification, time to check email. Yeah. And I go check my email.
The bigger issue is that I have no consistency of anything schedule-wise from one day to the next, but that's a bigger,
that's a whole other.
This goes back to the issue of you aim for perfection and you don't expect to achieve it.
Yeah.
So if you have those blocks of time and, you know, project's going to hell, you've got, you know, a chatty client that you're trying to close, you know, and it moves into the next block, that's fine. As long as you have that on the calendar, there's two things that accomplishes. That gets you back on track, number one. And number two, on Friday afternoon, or Sunday afternoon, depending on how the week went, I go through all of my to-dos and I assign them to those blocks of time. So that I know I can't do, one of my problems for many, many years was I had more to-dos than time. And so I tried to make the to-dos fit the time, and I failed miserably.
Right.
And I'm getting fairly close now because I know that I have to leave at least one block open every single day. I have to leave at least one block for maintenance, things that have to do with the running of my business, and that my actual work occurs between 6:30 a.m. and 12. And so all of my actual client work goes into that time frame. I try to avoid phone calls, I try to avoid any kind of outside meeting or distraction, and I try and plow through as much client work as I can. And then phone calls and meetings happen in the afternoon, and business maintenance happens in the afternoon. And if things go wacky, that's okay, because I know what I have to do, and the next time opportunity is when I'm going to do it. And I also leave a little bit of fudge space before the week starts, because either A, I forgot something, or B, some crazy goddamn client's going to pull something out of their ass and want it tomorrow. And they do it every damn week, so it's going to happen next week too. So that gives me the opportunity to move those things together. And if something falls by the wayside, at least I understand that to-dos must fill a time constraint. And that's been a hard lesson to learn. But I now know what my work schedule is personally, and I also understand how long it takes to do things. I allocate, some things take 15 minutes, and that's a minimum. Some things take a half hour, some things take 3/4 of an hour, an hour, or an hour and a half. And if it takes more than an hour and a half, you should be breaking it into other chunks and doing them as separate entities. Because I used to do things like, do full research for proposal for a client who has not specified what it is that they want to do. And that's going to be, you know, 3 to 5 hours, because you still got to get them to pull their deliverables out of their ass. So there's that issue too. So getting that all broken down into chunks, I mean, a lot of times I feel like I'm doing a lot of time, but the other side of the coin is I'm not nearly as stressed out as I used to be about holy, you know, it's all due on Friday. You know, you've got 7 projects due on Friday because you promised the people. You have to make promises to yourself first and then make promises to your client, and sometimes that's the hard part. Yeah.
Do you use only iCalendar then? You're not using like Outlook or Google Calendar or?
No, iCal is my
That's
place
it.
to figure out time. Podio is my place to do tasks and run my client stuff, and then both for creating content information.
Where do
and
you put your
uploading
appointments?
That is the one thing that I'm extremely inefficient on. I have appointments both in Nimble, iCal, and Podio.
Oh.
And once a week, I make sure they're in Groove. That is usually on Friday for the next week. And then I know what the week looks like in terms of time. I don't make as many appointments as I used to, so it's a little easier. But if I have three systems, the only good thing about three systems, even though I don't like redundancy, is nothing has fallen through the cracks in a really
You can
long
notify
time.
every time
At
you
least
look.
one of them is telling me the right thing at any given time. So I'm triple on that. I hate being late. I absolutely despise people that don't show up for a meeting and say, "Oh, I forgot." You have one function in life: show up. So just show up, okay?
It needs to be posted somewhere.
Yeah, that's
you have one function.
90% of success is just showing up. I think that was what he
Yeah.
offered. So yeah.
Good.
Have that. Yes.
There's a tool that we use for software development. It's basically an agile list on the wall or whiteboard or something.
Yes.
It's called Trello. And
Yes.
it's online.
I use Trello for long-term goal planning, and I've kind of fallen away from it. But like I have in Trello, I have what is a perfect day. If the world was perfect, what would be all the things you would accomplish in one day? So I have that every once in a while. I look at that and go, and at the end of the year, I usually make a set of goals for each month for the year in Trello, because that's really kind of what it's good for, is laying it out like that.
Where do you have time to keep up on all of these different tools? I mean, it's like, there's so many, it's overwhelming.
We have WIMP.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually,
Seriously.
WIMP has conversations about tools on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And like I said, when Asana wasn't cutting it anymore and it was becoming, things were falling apart on a regular basis, I just literally sat down and spent a day looking at project management and got a 14-day trial of Harvest and got a 14-day trial of Basecamp and got this, that, and the other thing, and futzed around with it. And for about a week, I played with it, and then the one that I could wrap my head around the best was the one I ended up going with, which is Podio. I did the same thing 8 or 9 years ago when it was clear that we couldn't build straight HTML files anymore for web development, which we've been doing for years, just building HTML files and linking them. And so I sat down one day and I said, okay, what are the top 3 CMSs? At that time it was Joomla, Drupal, and WordPress. So I spent one day on Drupal, couldn't figure out anything. One day on Joomla, figured out some stuff. One day on WordPress and was able to get a pretty good grasp of it in one day. We ended up going with Joomla for the development environment for our own site and stayed with it all the way until we sold it until 2011. But at the same time, I always did little projects in WordPress because it was so easy to figure out. That's kind of how I do takes on these things. And then when people talk about some newer technology that comes out, I'm willing to listen. But until I have a driving need or pain point or something, I usually don't spend
time in my day.
Right, but I don't have much time in my day either, but I get frustrated to the point where I just say, God damn it, I'm gonna figure this out. And I sit down and play with it until I find a solution that at least fits. So that's why I wanted to do this presentation, because I don't think people should have to spend that level of time to solve problems.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Here. Yeah.
I just wanted to thank WIMP Space for making this available, and for you, for one thing, planning this, and for making it aware, and also to you, to giving all of us these really valuable tools. You have a business, obviously, to run, and I really appreciate the fact that you took the time to share with us, and so I guess it's up to us now to share this information as we can, rather than just to hang on to as some treasure. Which it is a treasure, but it's a treasure that's meant to be shared.
Yeah, sure. I appreciate that. Thank you. And if anybody wants the PDF of this presentation,
Yes.
send me an email to Stormy, STORMY, at net101.com. And I will be happy to send you a PDF of it so you have it for reference. I guess I can probably do that. Yeah.
We can put it on slideshow.
Yeah, I could probably do that. You have the PowerPoint, so you can just drop it on there if you want. But I'll send you the PDF if you want to draw it up. Yes.
Okay, now when that link comes in from WIMP, this is the sort of thing, and everyone's been talking, all this information coming at us. So we put that in Evernote,
Yes.
and then all your slides from
Yes.
SlideShare will
And
be
tag it
on
with
there.
WIMP, productivity, Net 101, and tools or something.
But I mean, on something like SlideShare where you're clicking through.
Right. Yeah. SlideShare is like you're just going to the presentation.
I know, but will Evernote capture all those click-throughs?
Yes. Well, here's the thing. If you have a PowerPoint presentation or SlideShare, however they export it, they'll either export it as a PDF or a PDF and a PowerPoint. You can either take the PDF or you can take the PowerPoint and throw it in as a separate file into Evernote. You will not see the PowerPoint slides in Evernote, I don't believe, but if you click on it and you have PowerPoint, it will launch it. Or if you're on Mac, it will take it. And if it's a it will open your PDF reader. But you'll actually be able to see a PDF inside Evernote, which is awesome.
Yeah.
One of the reasons I really like it. And infographics and stuff like that. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.